can see that the standard is toggled on by default. Alright, welcome to Chapter 2 of this look at Outlook 2007. And in this chapter here, the focus is on actually starting to put Outlook to use. We looked at some of the new features. We took a tour of the Outlook interface in Chapter 1. Now, let's actually start to use this to perform one of the tasks which is built for, which is to manage our inbox. And specifically, in this module here, in this introductory module, we'll tackle the relatively simple task of creating an email. Now, as I pointed out earlier, previous chapter, most of you will start with Outlook today, and that is the default homepage for Outlook, just as it has been in the past. But again, you might not use it too much because you may end up in your inbox, and with the to-do bar, you get most of that information right there for you anyway. So you might start your day with the inbox, and then of course you'll be able to see your appointments and tasks that are coming up. But to just generate a new email from out of the blue, you can use the Outlook Today homepage, because what you're dealing with is this up here. This is the standard toolbar, and if you right click in an empty space of the toolbar, you can see that the standard is toggled on by default. If I uncheck there, and what I'm doing here, by the way, is I'm just doing a right click and then giving it a left click to turn it on and off. But in this standard toolbar, you have the ability to create a new mail message, and that's actually the default choice. If I click on this little button next to it, the little drop down arrow, I can create a new post, a new folder, a new appointment, and we'll get to all those later on. But the default action, once again, is to create a new mail message. If I'm dealing with the mail inbox, like here, or if any mail folder that I'm working with, again, that default action of the toolbar button will be to create a new message. Now I get something that actually looks different than what you might be used to with previous editions of Outlook, and that is the message window. And specifically in the message window, you get a look and feel that you'll see across most of the other Office applications. And specifically, this part up here is called the ribbon. And the ribbon does away with all of the menus and toolbars that you're used to working with in other Office applications. And so when you start to use this ribbon, if you've used Word before, for example, or Excel before, for example, this will be very familiar to you. If you use previous editions, though, and what I was talking about was Office 2007, if you use previous editions, you're looking for menus. You're looking for ways to manipulate things by going Tools, Options, or File, Action, or Edit, Cut, Paste, Copy, all those things. Now, all of those commands are included in this ribbon. It's a lot more intuitive to use. So I think the first time you start to use the ribbon, you probably won't like it, but after about 15 minutes, you'll think, this is the way it should have been all along. This actually makes it so much easier for me to work with whatever particular element or whatever particular file that I'm working with. And in this case, what we're dealing with is just generating a new message. Now then, some elements in this new message window that are worth pointing out. First of all, the title of the message is up here in this title area. So until you have a subject, so VTC email, and while I'm typing, it won't change, but if I click somewhere else or if I tab into the body of the document, notice that the subject changes. So that's one area to take note of. Another area that will look different is this up here, and this is called the Quick Access Toolbar. So this toolbar that's included is certainly a lot less complicated and a lot less, has a lot less features on it and options than you're used to with other toolbars, but as a result, it's a lot simpler and easier and more intuitive to use. You can customize what's on here by clicking on the little down arrow. And so if you want things like quick print, which you probably don't want if you're just composing email, but spelling and grammar, attaching files. So if you commonly attach files to your email, you can select that, and then you get the attach file little option up here that you can use. Now, what you can also do with this Quick Access Toolbar, as you just saw, is not only can you add other items to that toolbar just by clicking and unclicking if you want to remove an item, but you can also move it. You can show it below the ribbon if you want to, and that moves the Quick Access Toolbar, of course, below this area, which again is called the ribbon, and you can move it back there if you show above the ribbon. So again, that's the default. You can change other elements about this message window by changing your editor options. And your default email editor that's built into Outlook 2007, of course, is Microsoft Word. And you can change those things from the Office button, which appears in this message window. So again, when you're dealing with, and I'll cancel out of this here, when you're dealing with Outlook itself, you don't really see that Office button, which you will see featured prominently in other Office products. But In Outlook, you don't see it until you're actually dealing with a piece of information like an appointment or a task, or in this case, an email message. You deal with the Office button. Now, we'll get into all this stuff a little bit more later on, but I just want to point out some of the differences here. And of course, you can use this Office button, as you can see, to create other new mail messages or appointments or contacts or distribution lists and so on. And then there's the editor options that I mentioned. If you want to really fine-tune how the editor behaves, you can set those here. And of course, we'll go into much of this later on throughout the tutorial. But for now, just get used to this new look and feel. And what's especially nice about the ribbon, as I type a new message here, is that it is going to change and adapt based on what you're working with. Whatever element you're working with in the file, it will kind of guess at what you need. So now that I'm in the body of the message, after I've typed the subject and I've tabbed into the body of the message, now notice that this little section here, basic text, I get all of these little formatting options that weren't available to me before. So the idea is that if you don't need it, it won't make it available. If it's available, you can make changes to the new text you might enter into a document with just a single click. Bingo.